Hey everybody, I'm John at Collect Cards. Hope you're all doing well. It's Wednesday, September 4th, and I'm getting a VR in here. Getting a little close to the wire, but getting it in time here for John 3, the 80s kid, who has recently gotten past 2 years of doing videos on YouTube. So congratulations there, John. Really cool milestone. I managed to get past 2 years myself earlier this year, and yeah, it's pretty wild thinking I've been keeping this up for 2.5 years now, just about, and it's been a pretty cool thing doing videos on YouTube. And I didn't quite know what it would be like when I first ventured on there, which was kind of the main piece of your VR ask here, was to just sort of have us content creators just kind of talk about, well, go back to our first video, talk about what our goals may have been when we started our channel, maybe what we were just hoping to get out of it in general. And so I did do the hard work of going back to my first video, which I'm hesitant to put a link to it in the description here, but I'm going to do it anyway. So there's a description, a link to my first video in the description for this video, if you are curious enough to see how I got started in this venture. It was a bit of a tough watch, although it's what was tough about it was that I didn't actually show any vintage cards, which now is the pretty much the vast majority of my channel, has been for probably at least the last year and a half or so. And so what I guess I'll try to answer your question here real quick. I guess what was my goal when I started my channel? The first goal primarily was to get done with the first video and be okay enough with it to maybe do another one. That was really my goal. It just got to the point where, so this was February of 2022 when I started the channel, and I was back in the hobby for about a year and a half at that point, being away from it for a long time, like almost 3 decades. And it just got to the point over that year and a half of being back in that it just, things just bubbled up, and I just wanted to kind of share, because collecting can be such a solo endeavor. And for a good part of those first 18 months or so back in the hobby, it was not totally, but it was a decent amount. And then, eventually I did find my way to YouTube. I think I was doing eBay buying, and then eventually I started selling. I may have even started selling on YouTube. I started selling on YouTube before I even started my YouTube channel. But I was a lurker for a bit, watching others' videos, and finally just got the gumption to think, gosh, you know what? I think I can do this too. Hard to believe. I know I'm not much of a video editor, but there's a lot of other people who just kind of turn the camera on and, share their joy and insights and knowledge or expertise on collecting cards, why it's important to them. And I thought, you know what? I kind of want to do the same thing. So that's what I did. But my goal was really to just be okay enough to keep it going. And so I guess I checked that box. What was I looking to get out of it? Just to be able to have that outlet to share, but also to learn. I definitely wanted to learn from others, and which I was already doing as a lurker, watching others' videos. And what I mean by learning, just more about the nuances of the current product, which I was, kind of still in the throes of checking out for a decent amount, up until maybe early 2023 was when I really started to dial things back. I have barely bought any flagship of 2023, and it's been even less this year. But 2021, 2022, and 2020, I was definitely, when I first got back in, I was doing that through, the typical, current product stuff, hobby boxes, some breaks, things like that. I was building a few sets, actually as well. Most of which are, weren't worth bothering doing except for fun. But some were actually interesting to build, actually. I'm kind of glad I completed a couple smaller sets that maybe I'll show someday on a video. But I guess what I was also looking to get out of it was through, making comments on others' videos, eventually having just the courage to start doing that before I started my channel. I thought, maybe we can continue the conversation, so to speak, with me being on camera once in a while, or turning on the camera and you hear my voice too. And you know what? I'm going to segue into what I have gotten out of it. And that is what I've gotten out of it. I've been able to really form some definite, really great hobby acquaintances for sure, and even some downright friendships, which is really cool. Which is, sort of I didn't really go in with expectations of that. It was just more of maybe, just kind of participating in the hobby community, see where it led. But eventually I got to kind of got the gumption to go to the National last year, and then I went again this year, and to go to the Strongsville show this year for the first time. And last year's National was my first one. So if I didn't start participating in the community through doing my own videos, there's a good chance I wouldn't have actually followed through to go to the National and dive that much more in, and being a part of the community. So it's been fun. It's been, rewarding is a strong word sometimes, but I'd say it was. I've found not the monetary rewards. There's just a really cool, being able to, fellowship, maybe you can call it sometimes. Being able to get to know other people through a common, a common thing we like doing, collecting, in our case, collecting sports cards, baseball cards in particular, and vintage with even more of a focus. But so that kind of will lead to the last piece of this. What has changed kind of in the 2.5 years that I've been doing these videos? I would say I've just gotten a lot more knowledgeable in the vintage space. Now, I was already collecting the 1954 Topps set before I started my channel. I bought the first singles of that set for 54 Topps in 2020. Just kind of got the, which the story I've told many times at this point, just sort of for family reasons. The 54 Topps set was very interesting to me beyond the awesomeness of the set itself. And so I just started finding myself going down that road. And I was probably halfway done at least, with collecting the whole set, which, I had the whole set before I started the channel. And, I had bought my first vintage cards as a teenager in the late 80s, into maybe 1990 or 91, when I finally kind of got out of the hobby for a long time. So it wasn't like the expertise in the vintage space post-war, although so many nuances and other issues, Topps issues from those decades, 50s, 60s, 70s, I actually just didn't know about. So I learned a ton just from, those, from others about issues from those eras, from those years. But more than anything else, I've really just gotten to learn about pre-war. And it's been a joy to be able to just absorb knowledge on sets, and it brings you that much closer to the history of the game and the history, in some ways, of the country, problems, wrinkles, and all. And kind of the more you dive in, and the more you kind of read up about it, and just sort of you kind of just read up on the players and the times and the game, it suddenly doesn't seem that far away anymore. It seems more, those eras seem more tangible in some strange way, even though, the T205, T206 cards are now more than a century old. But in some ways, just, being that much more involved in the hobby, and buying some cards from that era and learning about it and being eager to absorb, the intricacies of those sets, and just sort of, add that as another kind of, bit of expertise that, a lot of us like to kind of develop as we continue collecting. I know I'm going on pretty far with this, but I'm almost done. But so that piece has been fantastic. I've loved being able to learn from so many of you, in addition to being able to get to know so many of you. But from the learning piece, I would have never, I never would have come to love the T205 set. I never would have read up about a player like Richard Hoblitzel, and it turned out he was Babe Ruth's roommate when he got to the Red Sox. He was with the Reds here, but I would not have really gotten into having a cycle back. To me, that's like my favorite of the advertisements of the brands from T206 and 5. Cycle is my favorite, so I just love having a cycle card. But I probably would never have realized if I didn't really start looking into it myself. And for one thing, knowing that some of these cards are they're very attainable. In terms of they're affordable. A lot of these cards, even this card in a 1, it's a couple $100, but it's something that is reasonably a get at a 1. But I wouldn't have known that Eddie Collins had a variation like this in this set, and so many others do. So this is just a cool card to have. Love this card, and without having a channel and just sort of again participating in the community, wouldn't have realized about those nuances. I would not have absolutely fallen in love with the DeLong set and love having one example. And this might be the only example I ever have from this set, but it's just so cool being able to have one. So love that. I maybe had been familiar with, I knew about the Gowdy set. I heard about Gowdy long ago. And I don't have a Gowdy card with me I'm going to show, but I became more familiar with Diamond Stars. And my gosh, these Art Deco designs are just, I just absolutely love these. And without diving into a channel, probably wouldn't have picked up on them as much in terms of just how cool they are. Same with this set. 41 play ball. I probably wouldn't have grown to appreciate how cool the play ball cards are, this set in particular. And then, one more, the 20s, the 1920s are probably the hardest of the pre-war decades to kind of really get a hold of in terms of what was made then, because a lot of it was dominated by candy cards, and there are just so many different issues on them. But here's one example that I just would never have gotten into the nuances of this E120, with the different colors for the leagues, and I just would never have. I wouldn't have picked up this Frank Frisch card if it wasn't for starting this channel and kind of being a part of the community. So I'll wrap it up with that. John, thanks again for the opportunity to kind of add a response here to your request for videos on just how we got started. Congrats again on 2 years, and thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you on the next video.